Hi guys, welcome back to Advanced Weekly Update. My name is Brandon.
And I'm Zach.
Good to see you guys. I hope you had a good weekend and you stayed dry, and I hope you had a good lunch. Today we're talking about two topics that a lot of you can relate to perhaps. The first one is marriage.
Yep, talking about marriage today.
And also stress. And sometimes being married can be stressful. We hope that's not the case right now for you, but we're talking about both of those in this month's lifestyle article. So if you have your October magazine, you can take a look at that.
What page is that on?
That's on page 26. So if you have your magazine with you, you can follow along. We also have some other articles this week, of course. Earth Talk, Protecting Wildlife. So you can check that out. Check out the radio programs. And we have a Derby Adventure article coming up later this week. So be sure to take a look at that. So advice for marriage. Sometimes we do these articles, to give tips and stuff for marriage. And Zach, you are married, right?
Yep. We just celebrated our 9th anniversary.
Awesome. All right, 9 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you have a lot of advice to give us today. In those 9 years, you've learned a lot, I'm sure.
Sure. I mean, marriage has been, for me, a lifetime opportunity of just a learning experience, right? Lots of lessons learned in real time with a partnership. And it's interesting to talk about these two topics, both marriage and stress, together. Because I think relationships can either fuel stress sometimes through miscommunication or missed expectations, but it's also the blessing in life, relationships that can help deal with stress on an individual basis.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get to our question, and we'll continue our conversation so you can chime in as well. Our question this week is, for you, what's most challenging about marriage and what's the biggest blessing, right? So you can think about something that's difficult, but also something that is truly great about being married. So anytime during this live broadcast, be sure to ask us any questions. Zach will answer them for you because he's more, has more experience in marriage. I've been married only 3.5 years, but I can share as well. But if you have any questions, go ahead and type those out in the comment section below. And you can also share with us some of your blessings and challenges.
Brandon, that's what's really interesting about marriage, though, is that there's so much to learn 1 year after the next. And I think even from the perspective of having been married 3 years versus 9 or versus however many, you experience such a richness in each year.
Absolutely, yeah. With each passing year, you get to learn new things, and that is great in and of itself. One thing I think, Zach, that I have learned from marriage early on is when you're single, you have issues that maybe you need to deal with personally, but you kind of just sweep them under the rug. You're like, I know that, but I don't really care about that. When you're married, it kind of brings it out of you, right? You have to work on those things, or at least there's more pressure on that, I think, because you feel the need to do that. And that's a good thing, but it's difficult.
Of course, right? You're in it together, and so if there's something that you've been sweeping under the rug, as you said, your spouse might call you out on that, and then you have to deal with it. But that's the good thing about dealing with problems. When swept under the rug or left unchecked, they grow bigger, they grow larger, but if the other person can kind of call that out or just force you to look at it, the problem cannot necessarily go away or be solved, but it can become manageable.
So that's true, Zach. But what would you say is one challenge that maybe you've worked through and it's not a challenge anymore, but just some sort of challenge you've come across in marriage?
Well, as I was thinking about this, I just think having that work-life balance, right? You've got work, you've got your individual responsibilities, and so do they. But then at the end of the day, being able to kind of come back together and remember this is a relationship that needs time and it needs work, and just being willing and finding that energy to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about it needs work. They talk about that in our article. It talks about my marriage working for me, and I think some of the advice is that that marriage shouldn't necessarily be viewed that way. But I think that marriage can be work in a sense because you have to work at it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that's
All right, let's see what Sophie is saying. She says, my husband works in Taipei, and my kids and I live in Tainan, so we only meet on Friday night and say goodbye on Sunday night, and my husband is always absent on some important occasion. So that is definitely a challenge, Sophie, and thank you for letting us know about that. And you're not the only one in this situation. This is, I think, fairly common. And so a lot of people are facing this challenge where they're not able to spend every day together.
Yeah, no, this reminds me, as a child, there was a season of life, kind of a short intermittent period of time where my father was also living away from us. And so it was just, again, we only tried it for a little while and trying to see how it worked out, but very challenging. But through challenges, you can find new opportunities.
Right, and we also hear from Alan. He says the challenge in a marriage is to understand your partner regardless of agreeing with his or her opinions or not. And the blessing is that you have a closest partner to go through thick and thin. Those are really good points, Alan, that you have to understand your partner, like where they're coming from, right? Whether you agree on something or not, you have to try to put yourself in their shoes.
Especially sometimes when you don't agree, and yet it's still a partnership. You can have your opinion, I can have mine, but we're in it together.
Right.
There's
But isn't
a
it
really
true
rich
that the wife is always right?
The wife is always right.
Okay.
It's true. It's true.
All right. And then the challenge, Alan also says the challenge in a marriage is to understand your partner regardless, of agreeing with her. And then, did we have another one? Yeah. Okay. It's not coming up, but we agree with you, Alan, on that. And thank you for sharing your story with us. We also want to show our poll to you this week. It's related to day 2 of our lifestyle article, and it's all about stress. So whether you're married or not, everyone can relate to stress. Our poll is, what stresses you out the most? Is it issues at home? Is it work, relationships, or something else? How about you, Zach?
For me, probably relationships. I think I'm more of a people person, so I'm just oriented around relationships and people, and so sometimes they'll feel like a blessing, other times it's stressful.
I agree with that as well. Relationships also can be stressful. You know a lot of people, whether it's at work or friends or family, and if those relationships are strained, it can put a lot of stress on you. So some of you are saying that issues at home are what cause stress, 33%, 44% at work, 22% are saying relationships. So continue to take that poll or take that poll if you haven't already. And if you have any other questions, feel free to chime in. We're going to go to our article more in a little bit of detail and talking about stress. And this article talks about planning a few steps ahead eases stress. I don't know about you, Zach, but I found that out in life, especially with regards to work. The better I can plan and the better I'm organized, everything else just kind of falls in place. Not perfectly, but it helps me out a lot if I stay organized.
Yeah, I think a plan offers you just enough structure, something to rely back on when the chaos gets too much.
Absolutely.
Right?
So I've tried to be more detailed in my planning, and that helps me to kind of stay on track and things don't surprise me coming out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, I didn't know I had to do this, and then you freak out.
When do you do your planning?
I do that usually on Monday morning. So I have a general plan, like I use Microsoft Outlook actually, and I put a lot of things on the schedule there. But also during the week, I'll write out sort of plans and goals of when to get stuff done through that week. Now, I don't always meet those. I often don't, but that's okay. At least I kind of have it scheduled out, and then you can sort of follow that up the next day, right?
So you'll kind of devote some time to the planning itself and then use that throughout the week to kind of check in on where you're at.
And I used to think, and I sometimes still do that, oh man, I don't have time to sit there and write this out. I don't want to take the time to do that, but I think it's totally worth it and will save you time in the long run. How about you?
Well, for me, my wife and I, in relation to marriage, we're trying to kind of talk about it and discuss on Sundays, right? On Sundays, we go grocery shopping. This is our grocery day. Plan meals throughout the week, and then from the food conversation is everything else. That's when we kind of talk and discuss what needs to get done this week and what we have to look forward to the next week. as it kind of moves us forward.
Right, and that takes a lot of work, but it can save you some time and stress later on. All right, we also hear from Luna. Thank you, Luna, for writing in. You said, even though there will be several challenges coming to us, I still look forward to getting married. Maybe the challenge will improve our relationships or my relationship. So yeah, I think that challenges can definitely improve things if you let it do so. Sometimes challenges, we don't allow it to change us. We resist that change, and then that is an even bigger challenge, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it comes to actually saying I do and getting married, right? It's such a cool moment. I think that when you can finally make that covenant, it's really special.
Yeah.
And it's just something that you kind of fall back on. But again, it's always about the relationship.
Absolutely. So marriage definitely, I think, can be a lot of hard work. You do have to, invest a lot in your marriage, but it's also a huge blessing. I think that's true for a lot of things in life. It's just that this one is so personal, right? The person you marry is there, right, in your house, like all the time. And so that's a good thing, and also can be challenging, right?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's a friendship, right? It's a friendship, and just to continue to put each other first, regardless.
All right. Well, our time is up for today. Thank you guys for joining us for this advanced weekly update live stream. If you're watching this later in the week, we invite you to comment as well, or ask any questions that you would like. And also, we hope that you will join us next Monday at 1 o'clock. We'll be right here with our advanced live stream. Thank you guys, and we hope you have a fantastic week.
Bye-bye.